Every man, including yourself, has asked himself the question, who am I? And as a matter of fact, it's the one question that men ask themselves repeatedly, especially men in their early adult years between the ages of 20 and 40. So why is this? Well, typically it's because men go through an identity crisis once they realize that the time has come for them to take ownership of their life, their actions, and wean themselves from mother and father. You see, as boys, we've often taken the identity of mother and father and cloaked ourselves according to what they've taught us or what we've seen modeled in the home or even outside of the home. But as we mature from adolescence into manhood and begin looking at life differently, we come to the realization that we have the opportunity and power to make our own decisions and that our decisions have consequences according to our actions. Every man must decide for himself who he is, and this speaks to his identity. How he sees and perceives himself is utterly important, but what's even more important are his decisions on who he will become in the process of becoming a man and taking ownership of who God made him to be. Every man must decide how he will live his life and in the manner in which he will do so. He must determine what he values and what should be priority in his life. He must come to an understanding of his convictions, and he must come to the realization of why he exists and his purposes on earth. Ultimately, he must understand who he is and decide how he is going to shape his life for the benefit of himself, his work, his relationships, his community, and ultimately for his legacy. He must answer the questions, who am I? Where do I belong in life? And how can I live up to my potential? These questions must be answered by every man. It's through this process that men either step up or step out of becoming a branded man. So what is a branded man? A branded man is an advocate, a champion man. He is a man who lives by a belief system and conducts himself according to that belief and ideal. He is a man who is convinced of who he is and expresses his life with a strategy and purpose. He is a man who is consistent and trustworthy and has a reputation of being genuine and one of a kind. He realizes that he is far from perfection, but willing to work in himself every day. He loves his family, respects others, and is willing to trust God in all aspects of his life. So how does a man become a branded man? He becomes a branded man by recognizing his strengths and putting them into action. He becomes a branded man by defining what he values. He becomes a branded man by believing that he exists because he has a purpose for his life, a purpose that only God can provide and reveal. He believes he's a branded man because he has a passion for his life, a passion for living and expressing all of his uniqueness to his circles of influence, especially for his loved ones, his wife and children. He becomes a branded man by not thinking that his current reality is his future reality, but instead is willing to work out the potential that exists in him today, because who he is today is only in seed form. He becomes a branded man because he recognizes that he has a power to influence, and with great influence comes great responsibility. He uses his influence to coach, to lead, to be a positive example to those who willingly and even unwillingly choose to follow him. He becomes a branded man because he carries convictions in his heart and is willing to speak to those convictions when challenged. He is led by the Holy Spirit. He listens first, calls on wisdom second, and speaks with authority because he has spent time with God. He becomes a branded man because he is inspired and he inspires. He breathes into the lives of others, especially his wife and children. He becomes a branded man because he has been created for a vision for his life. He has expressed that vision to his family and will lead them well. And lastly, he becomes a branded man because he is a leader of people, resources, ideas, and strategies. He's learned that leadership is not about what he can get from others, but what he can give to others.